Hello, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Holistic Cannabis Show where I am your hostess, Dr. Yolanda Henderson, and always joined by my wonderful co-host,
Mr.
Mr.
Henderson.
Mr. Henderson. All right, Mr. Henderson, let's have this show. All right, so y'all see what I have on. So y'all know this is the last couple days of Black History Month. And so we want to shout out Black History. Yes. And represent Black History. All right. So we're going to talk about education today on the show, Black History, and shout out our February birthdays in case we did not do so in the previous shows. Mr. Henderson, who do you have that's a February birthday?
Oh man, February birthdays. We had Nina's birthday.
Oh no.
We had Ariel's birthday.
Ariel,
Had,
okay.
Yeah, man, we had quite a few birthdays
We
in
had quite a
February.
few
My sister Kim,
birthdays.
her birthday was in February. Yeah,
Miss
February,
Nina, who came on the show, her birthday was in February. A couple of our other friends and family members, my Uncle Michael Thibodeau, shouts out to you for your birthday, and your anniversary was this month, so shouts out to you. I hope you all had a great anniversary and birthday. And then my friends all around the world who celebrate with us Black History Month. We have a special show for you, so enjoy the show. Also, we were at a lot of events this weekend. We were at the Peachtree Normal and the Pink Plains and the Atlanta World Hemp Festival. And there I am, Peachtree Normal represented. Yes, we did. We represented. There's one of my students with, three of my students. There's three of my students here. So we had a really good time. So we, with Peachtree Normal, this is what we do. We basically, our mission of Peachtree Normal is to move public opinion sufficiently to achieve the repeal of marijuana prohibition so that the responsible use of cannabis by adults is no longer subject to penalty. So that's what we're doing. We're ensuring that the penalties, the going to jail, the incarceration rates, the expungements, we're having expungement clinics and many other things going on in the cannabis industry. So if you have not joined yet, peachtreenormal.org, you can go in and make a donation donate to us under, I believe it's join us or hear more about us on the tab, and you can make a donation to become a member. This membership is only $25 for the entire year. So you may want to do that, get involved so that we can help you out. We're, gearing towards making sure that we have lawyers who are available for you if you are, ever stopped by the police or if you're harassed because of your cannabis on your job, or however the case may be, or even if you need a medical marijuana card. And of course, education is always important. All right, so we're going to show you this quick video about Black History Month and medical cannabis. Right after this, we'll be back.
She was an American jazz and swing singer that performed with popular musicians like Louis Armstrong. There have been multiple movies dedicated to her life, and she still has over 3 million Spotify listeners each month. But what you may not know is that before her death in 1959, she was a symbol for the war on drugs, and specifically, the war on cannabis. Drug laws in the U.S. have been notoriously racist. Politicians spent decades trying to associate drug use with blacks and Hispanics. After the Prohibition era in the 30s, Prohibition enforcers like this guy were out of a job. Harry Anslinger was in charge of keeping rum out of the country, but once the Prohibition era ended, he shifted his focus to an easier target: cannabis. Anslinger then dedicated his career to punishing drug users, especially ones of color. He popularized the Spanish word marijuana to associate cannabis with Mexican immigrants. And his strategy worked. For years, Americans associated cannabis with immigration, poverty, and race, helping his mission to demonize the plant. He passed the Marijuana Tax Act to crack down on cannabis use, and he spread the idea that marijuana was making black folks forget their place in society. Needless to say, he was racist. So when Billie Holiday and other black jazz artists were openly smoking joints during their performances, he wasn't too happy about it. Immediately, he began to associate jazz with black musicians who used cannabis and called it satanic music. When referring to POC, he's quoted as saying, "Their satanic music, jazz and swing, result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes." Yikes. Billie Holiday was having none of it and fought back with her 1939 song, Strange Fruit.
Southern trees bear strange fruit.
Strange Fruit was dangerous. It was a protest song that spoke about the brutality and violence experienced by black Americans. The song is based on a poem by Jewish writer Abel Meeropol and describes the horrific lynchings in the South. The song was controversial because it made people question their role in society. Strange Fruit was so feared because the government knew it had the potential to start a civil rights movement. And the fact that a black woman like Billie Holiday could be so open about racism was evidence for Anslinger that cannabis made black people defiant. He was pissed. Anslinger quickly forbid Holiday from singing Strange Fruit, but knowing how powerful the song was, she continued. Amidst her activism and singing career, she was also a heroin addict and suffered from childhood trauma. Anslinger used this against her. He had her arrested, followed, and harassed by government officials for years. Though Billie Holiday persisted with performing, the constant harassment coupled with her addiction took a toll on her body. She sought medical help in the hospital, but Anslinger ordered doctors to refuse her treatment. She died just a few days later at 44 years old. Strange Fruit was considered the song of the century decades after her death. And in the meantime, the demonization of cannabis continued and launched what we now know as the war on drugs. In particular, cannabis was facing its own war, with lawmakers associating cannabis with the black community and fueling policy with racism. Harry Anslinger was hugely responsible for anti-cannabis legislation and helped make cannabis a Schedule I drug alongside heroin, marking it as a high potential for abuse drug. For context, Schedule II drugs, which are considered less severe, include opiates, PCP, and cocaine. Here's the thing. The fight for cannabis is fought alongside the fight for civil rights. Anti-cannabis laws frequently target black users over white ones, despite the drug being used at a pretty consistent rate across the board. In 2010, an ACLU report found that black people were 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis than white people. Not to mention, black mothers who use cannabis are heavily scrutinized despite an entire culture of self-proclaimed wine moms, primarily in white families. And even today, with a thriving legal market, black women make up such a tiny minority of the industry leaders. Harry Anslinger and other government officials spent decades trying to associate cannabis with the black community. But now that cannabis is entering legal territory, the biggest players are suddenly white. Billie Holiday was chastised for her drug use 90 years ago, yet we still have black women like Sha'Carri Richardson being the target of anti-cannabis policy. Cannabis policies are historically linked with racism. And even though it might be less explicit, it's still ingrained in our government, our law enforcement, and the cannabis industry itself. Moving forward, we need better representation, both in government and in the cannabis industry. It's also important to spread awareness on the history to promote change. And though change may be difficult, it's certainly not impossible. And as Billie Holiday once said, "The difficult I'll do now, the impossible will take a little while."
All right. right.
But
Y'all heard it here. Miss Billie Holiday, shouts out. May you rest in peace.
Word.
And we will continue the war on drugs until they legalize it on a federal level. The whole full plants. We want the freedom of the plants.
Wow,
Free the plants.
them people hated black folks that
Yes,
much.
that much.
Was it really
Wow.
that much hatred
Yes.
that one dude will waste all that time?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Just to continue to make black people be less than? You went through
Sad.
all the hassle for a plant that's still around. The plant outlived you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government just need to give up on this war, man.
Yeah.
The plant then
Outlived.
the motherfucker who didn't want it.
It still lives. It
Christ.
still lives on, you know.
Christ.
So that war is going generational, and the only way that it's being, you know, ostracized now, even due to decriminalization policies,
Right.
that it's still not where people have a choice. It's
Right,
still
right.
not FDA
That's what I'm
approved for edibles. If there's FDA approval for cannabis oils, why isn't it approved for consumption to eat? I can take my
The
own oil.
people need to
and put
take it
in-
back over.
Where are our protesters? Where are our normal representatives?
Scared.
National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, Peachtree,
hiding.
please join. If you're in another state, they have Texas chapters, they have Colorado chapters, they have every chapter.
Hashtag.
They're all over the world, okay? So hashtag normal, NORML. All right, so
Hashtag free weed.
hashtag free the weed.
I'm not finna start
For
saying
Black
free the
History
homeboys
Month,
no more. I'm
right.
talking about free the weed.
Free the weed. So y'all
Ha-
see the history.
Harry Anslinger
Yes.
served as the director for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, right? This dude died in 1974.
Wow.
I was born in 1975. I'm almost 50.
Right.
So for this plant to be illegal, my 50 plus the 50 that he lived to be is 100 years. If he spent all of his adult life, which is now 80 years, this dude spent 80 years hating weed and black folks.
And black folk. And he was a Democrat.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. And he was a Democratic politician, all right? The next one of y'all that call me and tell me the reason why I need to vote Democrat, we going to have to, man, y'all going to have to own up to this conversation right here. Because I want to know. Bill Clinton gave you mandatory sentences, and he was what? A Democratic president. I just want to know. I just really want to know, you know. You had a vice president and two of her partners that said, hey, yeah, we're going to do everything that we can to legalize it, man. Just vote for us. Y'all going to have to answer some questions because I'm Big Smoke Dog. So y'all going to have to
The
answer me
Moore
some questions, man.
Act still has not
I ain't got
passed.
safe banking. I ain't got no, you know what I'm saying? The only thing that you got is decrim on something that the state wants you to have. You didn't even get a voice in the choice.
Ooh. I'm just saying ouch because he's right.
I'm just
I can't-
saying, man.
I can't make this up.
Y'all gonna have to do
Can't
more
make
than
this
just, man, y'all gonna have to work for my vote.
Yes.
I'm gonna just straight tell you, and I'm gonna tell y'all early now, you know what I'm saying? Y'all need to really make the politicians, we need to really make the politicians work for the vote. All right? Don't come and put no thing in my face talking about am I registered, man. We ain't doing that no more, man. We ain't doing that in the next one. 2024, y'all, we need to really do research on the people that you put into political office. Okay? Don't check them by color no more. Don't check that box just because the person look like your shade. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. You owe it to yourself to really, if cannabis legalization is really what we want, we're going to have to get the politicians who support it factually can prove that they support cannabis. What happened was we was cool with people just saying that they support cannabis in public and doing something different when it was time to make the decisions.
Behind our backs.
Even though they had the power to do it.
Right.
I ain't gonna say one person name. 'Cause if I say one person name, all y'all gonna have to go to timeout. All right. So you know what I'm saying? We ain't trying to do that. All right. We're trying to keep it friendly, keep it pimping.
Yeah.
Just check your candidates. All right. Check your candidates, man.
All right. So, everything that's going on, especially with this being Black History Month, we want to ensure that everyone is truly educated. That's why we had the topic of the show today being education in cannabis, because Black history is education. If we don't get the education for our history and how it was ostracized and how we went through and so many things happened to us in our past, which Mr. Henderson has some information about that. I'm not going to steal your words. But it will make us repeat itself, and we have to understand who and what we are, why we are part of, the story, the history, his story, so his story. Right.
And how many people gonna believe his story?
Right.
Instead of believing their own story, they'd rather believe his story.
Right.
That's crazy. That was crazy. That was dope. Y'all gonna comment down in the comment section that they're saying right there was dope. I'm putting that on the t-shirt.
All right. So if anybody have anything to say about history and cannabis, we would love to hear from you. What is the number, Mr. Henderson?
The number to call into the show to celebrate your cannabis history month is 470-251-4647.
That's right.
470-251-4647. If you'd like to watch the reruns of today's show, you can do so going to YouTube. Type in Manifest TV. Look for Status Network or Holistic Cannabis Show. See how smooth that was?
That's us. All right, so we have another video about Black history and cannabis, and we're going to get ready to show that to you all so that you can continue to make informed decisions about cannabis and Black history, not just being Black, but just cannabis in general, how it is helpful for the body and how it helps the body to heal itself. Right after this.
Weird orgies, wild parties, roots in hell. How did marijuana get such a bad rap? The answer is simple. Racism. As early as the 1800s, there were no federal restrictions on the sale or possession of cannabis in the U.S. Hemp fiber from the plant was used to make clothes, paper, and rope. Sometimes it was used medicinally, but as a recreational drug, it wasn't that widespread. A New York Times article from 1876 even cites the positive use of cannabis to cure a patient's dropsy, basically swelling from an accumulation of fluid. In the early 1900s, an influx of Mexican immigrants came to the U.S., fleeing political unrest in their home country. With them, they brought the practice of smoking cannabis recreationally, and it took off. The Spanish word for the plant started to be used more often too. Marijuana, or as it was spelled at that time, marijuana with an H. This is when the more sensational headlines about the drug began to appear. In 1936, a propaganda film called Reefer Madness was released. In the movie, teenagers smoke weed for the first time, and this leads to a series of horrific events involving hallucination, attempted rape, and murder. Much of the media portrayed it as a gateway drug.
Marijuana, a powerful excitant, produces unpredictable emotional results. But its greatest danger lies in the fact that it is a stepping stone to the harder drugs, such as morphine and heroin.
The following year, in 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was passed. Cannabis sales were now taxed. Part of the reason this act was passed was because of all the fear-mongering going on at the time. And a huge instigator of that fear-mongering was the man behind the Marijuana Tax Act, Harry Anslinger. Anslinger was named the commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics during the Prohibition era. But once national prohibition ended in 1933, Anslinger turned his focus to marijuana. This is when racism and xenophobia really kicked in. Harry Anslinger took the scientifically unsupported idea of marijuana as a violence-inducing drug, connected it to black and Hispanic people, and created a perfect package of terror to sell to the American media and public. By emphasizing the Spanish word marijuana instead of cannabis, he created a strong association between the drug and the newly arrived Mexican immigrants who helped popularize it in the States. He also created a narrative around the idea that cannabis made black people forget their place in society. He pushed the idea that jazz was evil music created by people under the influence of marijuana. But these racist ideas didn't just influence the media's portrayal or the public's perception of the drug. The discrimination they encouraged was evident in real numbers. In the first full year after the Marijuana Tax Act was passed, black people were about 3 times more likely to be arrested for violating narcotic drug laws than whites, and Mexicans were nearly 9 times more likely to be arrested for the same charge. By 1952, the Boggs Act was passed. This made sentencing for drug convictions mandatory. A first offense for possession could land you 2 to 5 years in prison and a fine up to $2,000. Through the 1960s and 70s, weed smoking took on a new perception through the counterculture movement. Young white people resisted mainstream culture and powerful institutions. This was the era of hippies, beatniks, and flower power. But despite all the peace and love, laws continued to emphasize the severity of the drug. The Controlled Substances Act of 1970, passed under President Nixon,
public enemy #1,
repealed the Marijuana Tax Act and instead made cannabis a Schedule I drug, the most serious class. Schedule I drugs are considered to have a high potential for abuse and addiction with no medical use. Other examples of Schedule I drugs are heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Classifying cannabis as a Schedule I drug has been highly debated since then.
And marijuana is not a Schedule I any more than a hedgehog is an apex predator.
But to this day, it remains in that category, and criminalization still disproportionately affects minority groups in the U.S. The ACLU reported that in 2010, black people were 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana than white people, even though both groups consume marijuana at about the same rate. Some states have taken action to reduce this type of criminalization. 9 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized the recreational use of cannabis, and 29 states allow some form of medical marijuana. San Francisco recently dropped thousands of marijuana-related convictions, and Seattle plans to do the same. But this doesn't change the federal restrictions, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions seems hell-bent on enforcing those federal rules.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Kansas State Representative Stephen Alford made a case against legalizing cannabis by referring to the racist rhetoric of the Anslinger era.
What you really need to do is go back in the 30s, the African Americans, they were basically users, and they basically responded the worst of all those drugs just because their character, makeup, their genetics.
And we're still seeing a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
So while some things have changed on the state level, some politicians are sticking with the fear-mongering and racism playbook. Even though Pew Research polls show that 61% of Americans now approve of nationwide legalization, up from 16% about 30 years ago. Popular opinion suggests it's high time to reconsider federal laws.
Whoa, well, you heard it here. That is a lot. You saw Mr. Anslinger on there again, so he's a big pusher for that back in the day. But of course now there's new politicians, and there's even people who are giving money, we found out, to anti-cannabis, and they're giving so much money that it is a joke. And we can kind of understand who these people are because we have here in Georgia the largest paper mill, right, that produce paper. And a lot of these companies fear going out of business, especially pharmaceutical companies who know that there are health benefits and that could kind of potentially push them out, especially because they cannot patent or make claims to nature. Mr. Henderson, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I need to come get y'all granddaddies, man. I'm noticing that a lot of the people, man, who had something bad to say about cannabis, man, and marijuana or weed, they was all old dudes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, they was politically affiliated. Yeah, they probably stand to lose for some money, man. But I think, man, if you over 50 years old, 60 years old, and you still talking about weed is bad and weed is a gateway drug, man, in this day and time, the age of information, man, just go sit down, man. Yeah. Just go sit down, man. Go over there in the corner with your little Bermuda shorts on and go sit down over there. You know, it's true that you can't really teach an old dog new tricks. Right. So once somebody chooses to believe and hold on to old school rhetoric like that, man, for years and years and years and years and years and swear that they right, you ain't changing their mind. You ain't convincing them otherwise. Right. So, you know what I'm saying, man, unless they're either that far behind or stuck up under a rock somewhere. Because with all the information, all the education that the Atlanta Academy of Cannabis Science does and do and everywhere that it be, it ain't no reason for nobody in the state of Georgia to still be talking about how bad cannabis is.
Mm-hmm. All right, so topical CBD promotes the healing of canker sores, says a study. And then according to the latest research, THC does not increase opioid-induced breathing difficulty. And then in Oklahoma, voters are just days away from heading to the polls to vote on legalization. So it's either yes on 820, the regulate and tax adults ages 21 and older, and strict safety requirements for medical or cannabis.
Man, if they roll up on that, I'm moving to Oklahoma.
Cannabis consumers are steadily transitioning to legal market, and researchers say that that's important for public health and safety. And the reasons why is because of the certificates of analysis that can tell you everything that's in cannabis. And we do the testing over at the Atlanta, Georgia Academy of Cannabis Science, and you learn how to actually test your cannabis. All right.
They're going to raise up the cost of cannabis so high. They're going to run out the black market so can't nobody get none of that lower wholesale prices. They're going to, then big business, not even big business, just the legalization of it itself.
We need to grow.
If you ain't growing your own, you finna have to pay out the nose.
Oh, wow.
For to get this bud. You're going to have to pay a whole bunch of money to get bud going forward.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
But cannabis is very effective at relieving nerve pain, according to respondents in this new study. So they are, introducing new studies and clinical trials and things like that for cannabis. When you want to be on the clinical trials?
I'm just sad for cannabis right now.
Oh, no. All right, so this is one of our flyers that I'm very proud of. Shouts out to my virtual assistant, Raina, for a wonderful job in creating this flyer and establishing our mission, explaining our modules 1 through 5, and we did increase the time of our classes. So we are no longer a 5-week, we are 8 weeks. And so now you have medical cannabis courses for everyone, not just your doctors, not just your accountants, not just your lawyers. We have it for everyone who wants to take the class in alliance with the Gift of Life Community Home. These are comprehensive cannabis courses where you will receive 3 different types of certificates. We have our medical cannabis comprehensive certificate. We have our medical cannabis business and capital funding certificate. We also have our medical cannabis medical health coach certifications that you will receive and become board certified. Yes, I said board certified. There is a governing board over our certificates that will get you a credential for MCHC or CMCAC, which is Certified Medical Cannabis Health Coach, and you will be able to work with patients in your own practice or in a CBD or one of the health food shops, or you can work with a doctor in a doctor's office to become a patient advocate for those who are just now starting on cannabis or going to be using cannabis. We have over 30,000 or 20,000, I can't remember which one, cannabis card holders here in the state of Georgia. So just as soon as those that one or two open up, then we will be able to allow cannabis users to indulge in cannabis. And then we're working on flower. So me being on the board with Normal, we're able to find out why we don't have the cannabis flower in those dispensaries and how we can get that on a federal legalization. So we have a lot of work to do. We need your help. We need more people to advocate for the medical use of cannabis, the recreational use. I think it's all medical because we all have an endocannabinoid system. And that endocannabinoid system become deficient. And in that deficiency, we have to replenish with phytocannabinoids or plant medicine. And this is all this is. It's plant medicine. So if I can talk about basil and the health benefits of basil and star anise and different types of other herbs, then I should be able to call this a supplement. All right. It only makes sense that this is something that is replenishing what's deficient in our body. So if everybody have an endocannabinoid system and everybody have naturally forming cannabinoids in the body, scientists have discovered that we all have this. All right. We have anandamides and 2-AG that are present in our body, right? Even right now, I mean, well, if they go and take my body and research my body, of course, there's going to be cannabinoids. But for a person who's never smoked, a person who doesn't even like cannabis, you already have cannabis in your system and don't even know it. It may be in minute amounts, but you still have it because we all have an endocannabinoid system. They found it in pigs, they found it in rats, they found it everywhere. So why not become educated in the field? And we want to shout out all of those who were at the event with us on Saturday. And those who heard me speak and heard the talk that I talked about cannabis being a better quality of life, because there is less side effects than traditional medicine. Traditional medicine than conventional medicine, because there's no toxicity from medical cannabis. There's zero toxic levels. It is not going to hurt your liver. You're not going to get liver damage for taking opioids. Like taking opioids when you're taking cannabis. So why, and then it behooves me that we don't know how to treat our bodies healthy and love ourselves like we are supposed to. Loving ourselves means self-care. And it also means knowing and being educated on what your body needs to become in homeostasis, which means in imbalance and in a tranquil space. All right. So you've never seen nobody high on cannabis go out and kill anyone, regardless of what they say. It is going to make you either calm and sleepy. And that's what most people complain about, the psychosis of the sleepiness, because your body is deficient in rest. Everybody across the world, the only thing they do is work. We are deficient in sleep, and so this allows us to get the best sleep we ever had on the planet. I wake up so refreshed and feeling so much better when I have my cannabis at night, my PM cannabis. And education is the key. All right. So get your education today at the Gift of Life Community Home in alliance with the Atlanta Academy of Cannabis Science. All right, Mr. Henderson, on you.
This hybrid strain, it's called Oreos. It ain't the chocolate ones. Check this out. The effects of this strain is hungry, relaxed, and happy. The flavor profile tastes like tobacco. Smell like vanilla.
All right.
And it tastes like coffee. Now, I might be interested in this particular strain, though, because if it has a tobacco flavor, could this possibly be one of the strains that keep people from smoking, right? If one of the reasons
yeah.
for smoking is, number one, to have something in your hands.
Right.
Number two, to have that taste of a tobacco.
Right.
I just heard that Kentucky just get ready to go legal too.
Oh.
Cannabis infused
cigarettes.
All right. Better come back on your cigarette. But let's get back to my deal here. Now, so this strain was reported to help with lack of appetite. 11% of the people reported helping with lack of appetite with this strain. 12% of people reported helping with insomnia. And 25% of the people reported helping with anxiety.
All right. So you see
now,
here.
I'm going to read it in my Georgia voice.
Okay.
Now, Oreos, also known as Oreo cookies and Oreos, is a potent hybrid marijuana strain made by crossing cookies and cream with secret weapon. This strain produces a long-lasting and relaxing high. Consumers should take caution as the high potency of Oreos may be overwhelming to those who is new to cannabis. This strain has an aroma reminiscent of campfire s'mores with extra delicious hints of chocolate and diesel. Medical marijuana patients use Oreos to help relieve symptoms associated with appetite loss, insomnia, chronic stress, and depression. Growers say this strain has dense buds that are lumpy, long, and neon green in color with amber hairs and glittering trichomes.
Wow. You sounded just like Forrest Gump. And that's how people in Georgia sound, for real.
She's trying to laugh at us in the South, y'all, because out there in the West, they ain't talk like that.
They don't talk like that.
They don't talk like that. So that's that down South drawl. They get them every time. So I'm saying everybody want a down South Southern boy. You know what I'm saying? A good Southern gentleman because of that drawl. But what happened is when we started listening to rap music, our drawl started sounding like this. And so we lost that. I'm from Tennessee, where all my friends call me Whiskey Brown. We lost that.
From Tennessee, huh?
From Tennessee.
Oh, well, I'm from Texas, and we have a little country talking, too. So how about that?
Y'all over there boot scooting.
We boot scooting.
In the South, we ain't have boots to
Everything
scoot.
big in Texas.
We didn't have boots to scoot. You know what I'm saying? We had chains and shackles.
Oh, Lord. All right. So, in other news in cannabis, we just want to thank you all for watching, okay? So if you all have never seen our shows before, you got to go back and watch our shows on the Holistic Cannabis Show, Manifest TV, where we are on YouTube. We're also streaming live on Facebook, and you can always go back to Manifest TV to view our shows in the past. We have some great topics and great shows that if you missed, you can always go back. We ask that you share the show so that we can get more viewers and more people to interact with the cannabis space. We thank you all again for watching our outside of the normal show hours on Sundays from 5 to 6, but we hope that you all were able to watch the show and make some informed decisions in your future. Mr. Henderson, you have anything else to say?
Tell Georgia Shandoon.
Oh, God. All right. Talk to y'all later.
South understand that.